easy to make $1 million. If you're patient. It's hard to make $1 million if you're a human though, because there's always a new thing, and that makes it really difficult to be, well, patient. There's always something new that we want or need to buy, and we can tell ourselves, we'll start saving in the future. But what about when the future actually arrives? This is Mark Perspectives, and today we're exploring the effect of taking early withdrawals on your investments. This is part 1. I'm Cam Irvin, lifestyle financial planner and advisor, and this is brought to you by Irvin Wenborn. If a person saves $500 per month and gets a 7.5% rate of return on average for 40 years, they'll end up with a little over $1.5 million. That could mean someone saves from the ages of 19 to 58, or it could be from ages 31 to 70. It really doesn't matter what the ages are, just that it's 40 years. But the problem is, humans don't tend to think quite like that, because life happens. Let's look at an example of a typical person. So let's say here we have Bob. Say hi, Bob. Bob wants to save some of his money for the future. It's not clear what he wants exactly, but he does know that savings is important because his parents always saved and everyone else seems to be doing it too. Bob's a young and sprightly 23 years old, and he makes good enough money that he can actually save $1,000 a month. So after 8 years of investing his savings in an evidence-based, low-cost portfolio, Bob has just under $131,000. That's pretty good. Bob's on track now, right? Well, it depends on the choices that Bob makes in the future, because it's not over. After 8 years, Bob is 31 years old and thinks, maybe I want to buy a house. And you know what? That's what Bob does. He buys a property. But in order to have enough for the deposit, Bob has to withdraw all his investment savings. So he goes back down to $0 and he starts over. It's not fun, but it doesn't seem like a big deal because Bob tells himself that he's a good saver and he will probably get pay rises so he can save even more in the future. It really shouldn't be that hard to make it up. And maybe that's all true. However, maybe that's not. But let's see what that 8-year difference makes in Bob's future. If Bob kept saving all the way until age 65 without ever withdrawing for his deposit, he'd have a tad over $3.5 million. Instead, Bob withdrew at 31 and then he had to start over. So he'll still be okay because he can save and he knows that he'll earn more. After all, how much is he missing out on from those first 8 years when it's not growing very much? Bob's final balance of saving from age 31 to 65 will be $1,872,939, which means he'll have about $1.6 million less than if he never made that withdrawal. Basically, Bob has half as much money in retirement just for withdrawing his early years of savings. This is just one quick example. That shows why it's important to let your wealth compound uninterrupted for as long as you possibly can. A little withdrawal can have a big effect. Of course, buying a house is a big decision, and most people that are in a position where they can will choose to do that at some point. But just be aware that using your savings and wealth for one thing can come at the expense of something else, such as your future, or having security and choices, being financially independent sooner, travel, fun, etc. If you're wondering what a practical solution is, it's quite simple. Nothing. All you have to do is nothing. Don't withdraw. Set aside some money and savings that can be used for things throughout your life, but make sure you keep some buckets of money that are protected and only used for the long-term stuff. If you never touch the long-term buckets of money, then they grow more than you can imagine, because the human brain thinks about things in straight lines. We can easily do the math in our heads for 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. Human brains don't naturally calculate compounding, so it's hard to mentally calculate 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 times 8. Just remember, dollars that are used today for something are dollars that you can't use later for anything. In other words, you get the chicken by hatching the egg, not by smashing it. Our goal at Irvin Wenborn is to help people live better lives by providing financial education, insight, and perspective. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to reach out or share it with someone that you think would find it interesting or useful. You can find us at our website, email, or socials.